Disclosure letter. So writing a disclosure letter gives you time to really go through your memory. This is for the person who stepped out of the relationship. It gives them a chance to go through their memory to be sure that all the necessary details of the infidelity are included. This is intentionally or accidentally included, and leaving out information on this letter only postpones pain. That's all it does, postpones pain. It gives your betrayed spouse a clear picture of what has happened, which they can refer back to into the future as needed. However, hopefully until it does its job and then it's tossed, because these letters can become dangerous and a crutch if you hold on to them too long. A lot of people, what they love to do is the minute they feel triggered, they'll go run and get the disclosure letter, and it validates, it confirms how awful their spouse is, or confirms how much pain they're in, and what a victim they're in and stuff. So absolutely use this letter to these letters to help, but don't let them eventually hinder. Oftentimes they can't fully absorb the details on the first run. So having written them down helps them greatly to go back and look at them and reflect on them. Again, only for a window of time. Being able to read through your letter will ensure that you stay on track during your full disclosure. It's very easy to get caught up in your own shame, the pain of your spouse, or to go down rabbit trails. There are negatives to oversharing and negatives for undersharing. Does your partner or spouse or significant other have the right to know every molecular detail? Absolutely. Let me make that very clear. Do they have the right to know everything? They do, period. That said, keep in mind that you cannot see or unhear or unread anything. So think hard if you want to know specific details in terms of your healing journey. So a disclosure letter, think of more such as like a newspaper article. Studies show that a disclosure should be more similar to like the headline of a story, not necessarily the story itself. Here are a few topics that could be included in a disclosure letter. The types of sexual acting out behaviors. Was it, did it consist of something oral, something anal, something vaginal, something emotional? So the types of what it was. Was it sexting? So forth. The approximate timeframes of these behaviors, the approximate frequency of behaviors, the approximate number of sexual partners, the date of the last contact with any affair or sex partner, and the last day that they engaged in the behavior. Did they do this 25 years ago? Did they do this 25 minutes before you read this letter? The approximate amount of money that was spent on behaviors or activities related to these behaviors, whether it was on drinks, whether it was on prostitutes, whether it was on hotel rooms, what have you, approximately how much money. Any health issues, and this could be sexually transmitted diseases, STIs, anything, any health issues that you need to disclose. Legal issue, were there any arrests while they're acting out? Are there any pending lawsuits you don't know about? Are there any children out there that were fathered as a result of an affair or a one-night stand or what have you? Incidents that may have directly or indirectly impacted the couple's children, including like, is there any kind of pictures out there on the web? Were you involved in any pornography that your kids could eventually find somewhere out there? Are you in pictures that your kids can find? Let's just say the affair partner and you took some pictures and they're posting on Facebook, and now your kids or your family members can actually view those pictures. So that really should be discussed and disclosed. And some things that don't need to be on that letter are things like, again, graphic details of sexual behaviors, positions, what have you. You don't necessarily need names of the affair partners unless you need them, and that's for like legal reasons. But other than that, you don't really need names. Locations of sexual acting out. You don't need locations necessarily, other than if it was in your home, in your bed, things like that. And the last thing you really don't need is fantasies. You don't need to know necessarily what the fantasy was, because again, so much of, especially an emotional affair or even a quick physical affair, is so built on adrenaline that, fantasies are just fantasies. The only exception maybe to that would be, I don't know, let's just say they fantasized about choking their spouse to death while having sex. Well, you might want to know that could affect, your relationship moving forward. Now, this is optional. If it's requested and wanted, one could include the reasons as to how and why they believe the infidelity occurred. For example, I was feeling old, unattractive, work was overwhelmingly stressful, and I felt unworthy at home. I guess I was just looking for some type of validation or confidence boost, etc. This could also be said in the last letter, which I will get to, the impact letter. But I just want to say that disclosure is initially tremendously helpful. Um, I'm sorry, disclosure letter, actually all these letters, but primarily the disclosure letter is initially hurtful, initially tremendously hurtful, but eventually tremendously helpful. Two, the impact letter. Usually an impact letter is from the one who was lied to, the one who was cheated on, not the betrayer. However, there's tremendous benefit to both parties to write an impact letter. The impact letter is an opportunity to tell it's to tell the person who strayed how it impacted you. But I'm going to do a slight little twist for this and say the impact letter could also be written by the person who strayed. It's an opportunity to tell the victim of how your betrayal, the person who betrayed, made he or she feel and how their behavior impacted them. Research has shown us that those affected by infidelity find it easier to forgive and heal if they, quote, feel the person who strayed gets what they did. One sure way for them to know this is to read it in letter form and have this letter so they can go back and refer to it if they're having a particularly bad day or if they're triggered. Again, not something to hold on to forever. Three key elements of an effective impact letter. A, examine the damage as a whole. So you need to write down the damage as a whole. How has this affected? Because it does affect every single area of every single body part and every single spiritual, behavioral, emotional, it affects everything. B, address the hurt. Areas might include the trust and areas of trust, the security lost, the self-worth that was damaged, body issues, mental health, their relationship with God, like I just said, all the key components of this. Your relationship with family and friends. I mean, really, this is an opportunity for the person who betrayed to say, I can see now that you're a little impatient with your family members, and I see that that's what I caused. I see that you're a little explosive to our kids, and I want to say, I see that, and I want to own that. I see that you've stepped away from going to church. I see that now you've decreased your prayer life when you used to pray every night. This has really affected you profoundly in so many areas, and I want to let you know that I noticed that. C, take ownership, which is basically what I just said. Take ownership of the damage. Take ownership of the damage, the destruction, the devastation that was caused from stepping out of the marriage. The apology should be detailed, heartfelt, authentic, and sincere. This is not a time to be short and vague. The only acceptable reason to be more vague and short in this letter is if you decide to save a lengthy, detailed, heartfelt, authentic, and sincere, remorseful apology in the next, which brings me to my last letter, which is the restitution letter, number 3. Long story short, what is a restitution letter? If you want the basics of a restitution letter, it's simply a recommittal. That's it. That's the bottom line of a restitution letter. I'm going to basically commit to stopping my behavior, going to therapy, doing what I need to ensure this never happens again. That's pretty much the restitution letter. Now, I would like to add additional things to that restitution letter. I don't care if it's bringing coffee in the morning, taking your kids, watching your kids so your spouse can have a weekday night, or anything in between. This restitution letter could come from the person who stepped out of the marriage, but you could also write a restitution letter yourself, with your needs, your wants, your desires, your non-negotiables. This is not meant to punish the spouse, rather to show the spouse that you are invested in a way, and you want to bring back the relationship to its original, when they were being pursued. So let me give you an example. Let's just say you were the one, well, obviously 9 times out of 10 you were the one that was betrayed. Okay, every area of your life is affected. So the restitution letter, of course, is going to be like, I'm sorry. I noticed what I did. I recommit to our marriage. I'm going to go to therapy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But because I stole so much from you, I'm going to give you some type of restitution. I'm going to make you feel valuable and loved and desired. I'm going to bring you coffee in the morning. For the next 2 months, I'm going to take the kids every Tuesday so you can have a girls' night or a guys' night out. I'm going to add up all the money that I spent outside of the marriage on hotels and prostitutes and whatever, and I'm going to give you A, B, and C, or buy you whatever. And if this isn't something you want, it's not something you want. But all this is basically letting you know, it's bringing you back to the beginning of the relationship where you felt pursued. Because right now you just feel like, this is, I don't know where you are in your healing, but these first few days, first few weeks, first few months, you feel devalued, you feel discarded, you're questioning your self-worth, you're just so much, you're questioning your partner's love for you. So if they're going to do a restitution letter, that's not only just a recommittal and what they're going to do to get healthy, but also what they're going to do above and beyond that shows you they're invested, and that makes you feel like you're being pursued. It brings you back to the beginning of the relationship when you were being pursued. And if you want to get technical, the life you had before D-Day and the life you have after D-Day is 2 different lives, whether you're reconciling or not. So if you're going to reconcile, then why not feel pursued? Because you're actually almost starting a new relationship. You're rebuilding a brand new mountain of trust, what have you. So should these initial behaviors last a lifetime? Not necessarily, because any healthy relationship might not be able to sustain some of the things on that list. I mean, if you tell if you say, oh, every lunchtime I went and had lunch with my emotional affair partner, so now I'm going to come home on my lunch and take you out to lunch for the next 3 months to show you that you're my priority on lunch break. Well, that's fine, great, and dandy, but is that sustainable over a long period of time? Maybe, maybe not. So again, this initial restitution letter is not only just a recommittal letter, but it's also to go above and beyond to say, you are my priority, you are my desire, and I'm going to show it and prove it by doing A, B, and C. So again, it's not necessarily to sustain it, but it is to give the relationship the jumpstart it very well needs after the damage and devastation of betrayal. The restitution could end with an apology and/or what you hope for in the future. The betrayed spouse could also write their needs in a restitution letter covering anything and everything from, and again, this is from the betrayed spouse's perspective. I need you to initiate a check-in with me every day, once a week, once a month, what have you. I need you to do monthly check-ins that cover topics such as, what are you doing with your recovery? What are you doing with your sobriety? Your step work, etc. Obviously, nobody has to give you private details of what they talked about with their therapist, but these are just check-ins to make you feel safe. I'd like you to see and maintain a 12-step group participation, or your weekly therapy sessions, etc. These are my expectations, and this is your right. If they want to reconcile and build trust, you can tell them these are your expectations moving forward, and in order to feel that I'm safe and we can move forward. If you need a therapeutic separation, that could be in your letter. I need a therapeutic separation, and I'm willing to give this a go, possibly, but I just need some time. That's fine. That's fine too. So in closing, I just want to say that there are protocol and parameters for these letters, but that still gives some wiggle room to personalize them in a way that will best serve your healing. I know there may be some here, maybe even watching this, that think my perspectives might be punitive or more of a punishment, and that's okay. That's completely okay. Maybe my methods or thought process wouldn't work for your situation. I just want to share a slightly different perspective on these three letters. Again, primarily with the restitution letter, not only to make it a recommittal letter, but also these are to use it as jumper cables to give that relationship the jump start it needs. I'm going to do above and beyond these things to let you know you are my priority. I value you. I pursue you. I love you. I want you. I need you. You are my future. This is what I'm going to do for you to prove it. Again, these things might not be sustainable for a long-term relationship, but they are simply to jumpstart the beginning of a relationship. People cannot heal unless they know that the person who hurt them gets the gravity of how they're hurting. Nobody can know the depth of what you're hurting. I mean, nobody understands your love language, your childhood, your experiences, your sacrifices, your attachment styles. I mean, that but if they can grasp it and they're working on it, and you both are human and you can understand, you know what? Love means being committed to somebody who's imperfect. Love means trying to understand the reasons people did something as opposed to holding on to impatience and anger. And if you are married, your relationship, as I'm sure you've heard before, or if you're in a committed relationship, your relationship is going to go through many changes. You're going to go through multiple marriages in a long-term relationship. That could be with the same person. So none of this is easy. None of this is easy. This is going to be probably by far the hardest thing you've ever dealt with, you've ever gone through, you've ever endured. And it is a slow, grueling process. But you keep on keeping on. And every day we just learn how to live with it a little bit better.